Shout out D on the track, Paint Music Media. Shout out DJ Lee Productions, and I'm Al Ken. But if you a game changer, got my head. My grind don't hide, win, lose, or drought. I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane. My God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer. 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 I'm full court press. I pledge allegiance to the best. Ain't nothing left to give it that reverence that the Father gets. So every day I work the sweat, can get a flesh another rest. They say go hard or go home. I say just do whatever's best. It's evident I'm blessed and I work like it. Fight like a Viking. Fight like a lichen. The difference is I like it, so I shine like I'm lightning. So I'm going head to head with certain depth. Who you liking? Yeah. So it's time for coach to put me in. I'm strapping on my shoulder pads, lacing up my cleats, and then I'm gone with the wind. Like I'm gone in 60 seconds. You can't hold me, you can't check me. Check the memo, check the message running through. Like I'm baddest, I'm trucking whoever's standing in my way. Ain't no way you gon' stop me. You better off to let me in. Cause I go hard, even though they say no way that I could win. Like I'm Brett Ford, I'ma ride this way. My head to the sky. My grind don't hide. Win, lose, or drought. I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane. My God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer. 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 Yeah, I told you once before, my God came to change the game. Different outlook on to life, a different way to play the lane. Now my rushing yours is skyrocketing. Now I'm so insane. For the kingdom building, now my shot it cannot be contained. So I'm gon' pray for change for myself and then what I can. I don't need no euros or no pesos or no money grams. Shout out to Wado, cause I know that he gon' play this fam. The FCA sports camp, game changer, summer jam. I don't need 100 grand to tell them that they need the lamb. It's heaven, it's just who I am. Al Kim, this where I stand. Man, I'm gon' play the fist. Hit so deep and turn it quick. It's like I'm out from the trap to turn around, get back in it. Never that's not insane. It's evident your butt they chain. Like I'm Jack Johnson, the same year he changed his name. So I sacrifice my life for the cause just to win. And if you a game changer, let me see you represent. My grind don't hide. Win, lose, or drought. I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane. My God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer. 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 Now put me in, coach. 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 I'ma go hard.
I'ma go hard. I'ma go hard. I'ma go hard.
Cause I'm a game changer. 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 I'm a game changer.
Well, what a great song, Game Changers. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Minister Sedric on Elation Radio. How are y'all today? What a wonderful day. Hey, y'all know that today is one of those beautiful days. We got a lot going on, a lot to talk about, but, man, I just want to encourage everybody. Today is Friday, June 26th. June 26th of 2020, man. I want to challenge everybody tonight just to be good, be in God's good graces. I've been thinking a lot today, and I tell you, I've been kind of having to live by my words. You know, I found something that I love, and I've been pursuing it and chasing it, and y'all know that's my relentless pursuit. So welcome back to Relentless Pursuit Radio. This is Sedric. I'm telling y'all going to love this. This is going to be a good day today. I got a couple of guests on, a couple of the usuals. a couple of the usual guests on, and then I got a good friend of mine who's coming on tonight. I call him DP, boom, 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 the heartbeat, DP for life, you know what I mean? David Paul, I got him on tonight, so we're going to talk a little bit. But before we get into that, I had a little something I was reading in James today. I was reading in the book of James, first chapter, and I came upon this part, and it said that the brother in humble circumstances ought to take pride in his high position, but the one who is rich should take pride in his low position. And, man, I believe that as believers, we kind of have a tendency to fall into one of two extremes. You know, we either wallow in the fact that we're being deprived or our depravity, or we start boasting about the benefits of our faith. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's one extreme to the next. But I believe that each extreme can be further explained or looked at, you know, just simply by our positions in this world. You know, I believe that for some reason we draw conclusions about our poverty or our wealth, that there are possible signs of God's favor upon us. And again, I don't believe that that's the case, but when we look at James, he tells us how to retain our minds on all of the matters. James, he goes and he talks to us about it, and he says those who are in a low position in this world, they may need to be reminded frequently that they are children of God, not just children, but beloved children of God at the Most High. And then those who are very rich, I think that in the book of James and what he's saying is those are that are very rich. We need to remind them also that they are that they themselves are also beloved children of God. But see, they also need to be reminded that their success basically need not be that they are thoroughly corrupt sinners. Okay, meaning don't let this wealth go to your head so you become a sinner. When you have this wealth, I think that God is calling upon us to become even better servants, right? And so it's funny how the world has a way of perverting these two. And it's funny how we as Christians, we basically go from one extreme to the other. And I also believe that when you read further in James, and I believe I read only verses 9 and 10, but I believe that when you read further in the book of James, I believe that you find that there's only one way to live in Christ, is that we have a very balanced knowledge of the truth, right? That's the only way that we can preserve the right perspective, right? That's the only way we can really get to God. So I believe that what we have to do is we have to follow God. We can't divorce God. We can't divorce the word from the living God. We have to follow God. You know what I'm saying? The word is God, right? And I'm not even going to finish all of that. I just want y'all to know about that. The word is God, okay? You can go. But we definitely have to think about it that way. So what I want to say to most people, if you tend to sit back and you tend to dwell on your what I would like to call your sinful condition, if you sit back and you dwell on that, and your circumstances, your humble circumstances, they might lead you to such an imbalance that you basically meditate on the riches of the kingdom. I need you to go and do that. You may be poor, you may be lacking, you may have all the wants, right? But you don't see that what's required of us is Christ. What's required of us is God. So my encouraging word to you is to meditate on the riches of the kingdom. And if you feel superior to others because of your worldly success, my thing I want you to remember is we come from corrupt origins, right? But our call is to sacrifice, to have sacrificial service to Christ. See, sometimes we get that mixed up. We get caught, as I said before, on either one extreme end or another extreme end. But either way, the only balance in your life is Christ. And so we have to really dwell on that. We have to really think about that. And so no material things are going to save you. Only Christ, right? No amount of poverty and wallowing in your grief is going to save you. Only Christ. And so that's our balance. and I want to encourage any and everybody today who's going through a tough time, a tough situation, is that the only real balance we have in our lives is Christ, and we need to learn to focus on that. So as I say that today, I want to close out with that and just let everybody know, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I love you. We are in this fight together, and some of us are struggling more than others. That's okay. That's okay, because money won't get you into heaven. Poverty won't get you into heaven. Only your sacrificial giving to Christ. You know what? We want to give God everything we have, and more, the thing that we have the most abundant of is love in our hearts. And if you feel like you don't have enough love in your heart, bow down on your knees. So I just want to say that to everybody. Now, going on into our show, hey, I got Terry on. I got Jason on. I got somebody over in the background doing something, and I know.
Hello, sir.
I know. How y'all doing? Who's clacking and clicking on stuff over there?
Oh, that's me typing on my keyboard. I'm letting people on Facebook know to tune in.
D3, man, I'm telling you. Why don't you go ahead and
Pastor David, yes.
How you doing, Pastor David?
I am doing well. And Pastor Terry, good to hear from you, brother.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. Long time no visit, right?
Yeah.
Long time no visit.
All right.
And we also have one other brother on with us, my other brother there. Brother Jason, you on with us tonight?
Yes, sir. I'm here. How you guys doing today?
Great.
You know me, I'm having a fantastic day. My body's feeling kind of crazy, but man, God is so awesome. He has blessed me, so I'm doing fantastic. So, well, welcome aboard, everybody. Now, this is. Now, y'all can call Pastor David if y'all want. He introduced himself to that. Me myself, I'm gonna have to call you DP. DP for life. I got the heartbeat sound in my head. You know, boop 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 boop. You know. So people like to,
I have answered to many things in my life, many things.
All right, but I'll wait to DP, right? But I will call just out of respect. But so tonight, what I wanted to talk about tonight, just a little bit, and this is something that it's been swirling around in my head for years. I have a number of friends here that I associate myself with here in Louisville, Kentucky, and they push this thing called Descendants of American Slaves. And I ain't mad at them. But we were talking about a topic a while back, and that topic was simply reparations. And so I thought tonight, let's make a case for reparations. But I wanted to really talk about the things that are leading people to even just talk about the subject. And, you know, if nobody knows, if you go into Congress, you'll find that there's a bill that's been there about reparations for over 30 years now. I didn't want to get too deep into that, but the case for reparations, why is it important? Why would anybody say we even need reparations? You know what I mean? Because our society, and everybody knows about the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, I'm assuming that everybody knows about the Black Lives Matter movement. But I will say that they're not the first group to call for change. They're not the first group to call for anything about reparations. As a matter of fact, I don't even know that they're even talking about reparations. But we have a number of congressmen and senators on a federal level and also a state level that really have been pushing the case for reparations. And I myself, I find myself thinking about that. What are they really talking about? So first, I wanted to ask this question of the three of you. What do you think reparations actually means? When they say reparations, what are we actually talking about? Oh, that's right. Nobody knows when to talk. Jason, when they say reparations, what do you think people are talking about? My bad, I forget I got to call people out.
So it's interesting when we were talking about this. I looked up the definition of reparation, and it says the making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money or otherwise helping those who have been wronged.
Okay.
Right. So I think that book, that formal definition kind of explains what reparations is. It's a payment for a wrong that's been done to try to, like they say, make amends.
Make amends. Man.
Yes.
So what does it mean to make amends? Because we're going to get deep on this just a little bit. And And yeah, to make amends. And to make amends, basically, to fix something you broke, right?
Right.
Okay, fix something
Kind
you
of
broke.
like
So. Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, kind of like to say I'm sorry. You see it a lot of times in cases where someone's done something wrong, and instead of going to jail for it, they just pay them off and just say, here you go.
Okay. So now, when it comes to reparations, I mean, I really want to look at this. When it comes to reparations in our society today, here in America, what would you say we're talking about when it comes to reparations? What are they making amends for? What are they atoning for?
It's pretty much what they said is like slavery, making amends for those things. And like I said, when people were released from slavery, they left pretty much with the clothes that they had on their backs.
Okay.
Some people were some slave owners were nice and maybe gave them a little patch of land or whatever, or here or there, but a lot of it had to do. A lot of those people just pretty much left with the clothes on their back. They didn't have the money. They didn't have any of those things to start over again per se, with the exception of their skill, whatever they had. And so basically they left in a deficit. They left slavery in a deficit. And that's what they're talking about when you look at the definition of reparations. It's not so much, yes, money, yes, land, yes, but also there's been systems that have been designed from way back then that have been in place that need to be dismantled because they've always been designed to keep people of slavery descent in a certain place. If that makes any sense. If that makes sense. So reparations goes into policy. So reparations goes into policies, reversing policies. It drills down even deeper than just the money thing or the land thing. Or Spike Lee says 40 acres and a mule. That it goes deeper than that. There's policies, there's things that have been instituted that are specifically designed to keep the black people of color in their place. I was thinking about today, but would you believe in the life of the Senate? That's only been like 0.05, senators of color in the United States Senate since its founding. And what they're doing and what's happening, but a lot of that has to do with gerrymandering, moving things, all that, and those are things that have been in place to keep people of color from getting in positions of power.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. What's funny is, we're all about educating all of us here. But what's funny is, see, I like to go a little bit further into that. I'm also going to add into the theft of property and the theft of intellectual property. Okay, because that during that period of slavery, during those times, we can go round and round and talk about inventions. We can go round and round like lawnmowers and the refrigerators and red lights. We can go round and round about that. But I want to add in the theft of intellectual property because I came up with this idea, and I was a low class citizen. I was 1/3 of man, right? So somebody who was considered a whole man took my idea and made bazillions of dollars off of it, starting back in. Hold on, let's go back to 1700, and here it is in 2020, and they've made bazillions of dollars, and my family struggles. And so when I hear it, I, for one, let me put this out here, and let me be very, very strong about this. I put this out. I'm a guy who never, ever believed in reparations. Can you believe that? Me of all people, right? I never believed in reparations because I believe that as a man in this country, whether you're black, green, purple, blue, or orange, you have an opportunity to excel in this country. Oh, my God. Yeah, I was so naive. I do have an opportunity to excel unless, of course, I get caught up in a situation where some of my other brothers, some of my other people that I know they get caught up in the same situation. They get 10 strikes and I get 3. Only difference is my 3 strikes land me in prison for 20 years. Their 10 strikes land them with a slap on the wrist, maybe 2 or 3 nights in jail. So when you started to talk about the system, a systemic approach to and I'm going to call it oppression and discrimination. See, so now when they started talking to me about reparations, now I started to hear it. I started to hear it because the system, and honestly, none of us really today have much of a hand in creating the system. We only have a hand in what? We have a hand in allowing this system to keep going, right? You know, y'all heard of see something, say something, right? Y'all heard that, right? Well, how many police officers do that against each other? Check it out. How many comptrollers do that against the bank presidents, against the presidents of their company, right? They don't. So it's like, why is it that white collar crimes get prosecuted? Oh my God! And their sentences are a lot less than if I was a low level drug dealer on a corner in Chicago or back in Dallas, Texas. And so the point I want to make is piggybacking on what you said, Terry, is that systemic racism, it takes many forms. And so one of the things when I talk about reparations, I'm talking about the theft of intellectual property, the theft of physical property. I'm also looking at how is it the positions of power. You mentioned the Senate. Well, who's voting for these people in the Senate? And you mentioned gerrymandering. Man, a lot of people don't understand gerrymandering. So when we think about reparations, I have some ideas why reparations is necessary. And at the end of the day, I think reparations is necessary only to level the playing field. Because I can go back to, let's start in 1968, redlining. You know, imagine this. Imagine this. This is no joke. Imagine this, if you will. You have a man who grew up in Mississippi. And I actually got this out of an article that I read. I gotta put this out. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he wrote an article about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was called "The Case for Reparations," which I gotta admit I didn't know at the time when I wanted to do the show tonight. But I do a lot of reading, and I'm familiar with who he is. But he wrote an article about this, and it was like this scathing article that everybody just loved, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I wanted to just say that quick. But check this out. There was a gentleman that was interviewed. I don't know if it was by Mr. Coates or not, but he fought in World War II, and he was from Mississippi. He came back home, and all the lynching and the boy, and I can't look a white man in the eye kind of thing. You know, you got to look down or away from him. You got to protect your lives a certain way, you know. And so he moved up north to Chicago. He thought, well, I got some money saved up, so I'm moving my family to Chicago. Chicago was the promised land for the people back in that day during what they called the Great Migration period. So he moved to Chicago, and he moved, I believe, on the west side of Chicago, and he was trying to buy a house, and he couldn't. And so he finally was able to buy a house. But check this out. It was kind of, if anybody know about housing, you buy here, pay here when you got your cars. Well, they had a system set up, and it's still set up to this day, where your credit's good enough to get a house, but the bank won't give you a house because of redlining, because they don't want you moving into certain neighborhoods. So they bought a house, and they got all the benefits of home ownership, except they didn't get to keep the deed. They were never issued a deed. So a lot of black people, now he got a really good job. He was working for one of the manufacturers up there. I don't remember who it was, but he got a job in the manufacturing plant. He's making good money. He was able to save money. He could do things. But check this out. And here's the problem I believe in our community sometimes. He bought a house, and he didn't get the deed. It was one of those third-party lenders. So the lender kept the deed. He made all the monthly payments, and anything broke, he had to fix it, right? But he was effectively renting this house for like 30 or 40 years till he could pay enough money to get his deed, right? And the problem with that is, and this is where we as a people, we fall into these, and I say we as a people, because this is predatory lending really started with minorities. Now, I'm not going to say white people didn't suffer the same thing, but it was set up mainly. If you don't believe me, go look at all the check cashing places. Where they at? I guarantee you, I live in Louisville. I guarantee you, I live right down the road from Indian Hills. And I guarantee you ain't no little check lenders in Indian Hills. How much you want to bet? They'll run you up out of there real quick, fast, in a hurry. But the predatory lenders are in the lower income communities. And let's just face it, a lot of times that means it's a black community. And so that's how he was getting his loan. But here's the problem with that. They didn't talk about it. They would never talk about it. So another case for reparations, in my opinion, is the predatory lending. People were afraid to talk about it because here it is, Terry. I'm proud that I bought a house. I don't want you to know that I don't actually own a house. Right? Right? So we have a number of things to overcome. And included in that is the fair housing. Of course, we know that. And so I have a problem with that. So when I start making a case, and I'm saying we need reparations, I'm talking about I need y'all to hear me. I need y'all to hear me, and I need y'all to treat me the same way that everybody else gets treated. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm talking about the case for reparations. Anybody have anything they want to add? Because I can go on forever talking about the case for reparations and how a race of people were basically discriminated against. So go ahead, David. I hear you over there in the background.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts on a lot of that. Now, me and you have talked, gosh, how many hours do you think we've talked, Sedric? At least, right, days worth of talking. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the reason why or a big part of me becoming a pastor actually has to do with my great-great-grandfather who was on the wrong side of the Civil War. He was a slave owner who owned a plantation. And at the end of the Civil War, lost everything. And after he lost everything, he became a Methodist circuit riding minister and went out west with a Bible and a gun. And that's all he took with him and left everything behind. So obviously, historically and in my lineage, there are things that I have to deal with, right? Like I have to look and say if there was a problem, then I was both part of that. Now, I will say this, ever since the Civil War, my family has been full of either preachers or thieves. It's been one or the other. They've been either, dedicated lives to God or on the wrong side of the law. In fact, I say my family's from out west, and I was raised out east to get away from my family because my mom wanted me to graduate school and not go to jail, right? Little things that she wanted for her kids. So. And also on the other side of that, though, is I actually have two great-grandmothers who were full-blooded Cherokee, and my ancestors did go down the Trail of Tears as well, right? So from both sides, I
lost you. Yo, David.
I think that in my life I've always had a strong sense of injustice and a strong sense of wanting to make things right because I feel like all of us are trying to overcome the sins of our fathers. Right? That we've been handed a world that is not perfect. We've been handed a world that is broken in a lot of ways. And we're all trying to come to this place where we deal with what we've been given in the best way we can and trying to make right the things that we can make right, And so I come to it all through that way, right? When I think of reparations, my problem or the thoughts that go through my head are not about the rightness or wrongness of it so much as the mechanics of it and the actual what that looks like with feet on the ground, right? Like, are we talking like government money, raising taxes, redistribution of wealth? I think there's always been an oppression of one class over another class in America. However, I'm not a Marxist or a socialist because I believe that though capitalism has its flaws, it's still a system that allows those that have a certain amount of merit to rise to the top with enough effort. However, you and I have very little chance of ever becoming actual billionaires, right? Where when we talk about rising to the top, we're talking about rising to the top of our fields with our technical professions or our abilities and things like that. But we're not talking about world-changing money, right? So all of these things go into this big pot of – go ahead. Go ahead.
Before you finish your
I know there's a lot in there, right? There's a lot to unpack. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but I guess I wanted to talk about when you talk about not world-changing money. Now, world-changing money for some of us in the community where I grew up. I'm from South Dallas. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I spend a lot of time in South Dallas, Oak Cliff, a little bit in West Dallas, and Pleasant Grove. That's where I grew up.
Right. Okay.
World-changing for us. See, my parents both work full-time jobs, and I guarantee you I make more in 2 weeks than both of them together made in a month when I was growing up. Now, we're talking 40 years ago.
Right.
But you know, like I know, the income hasn't changed since 2000. And I made 3 times more money in 2000 than what I make in 2020. Ain't that crazy? So I guess what I'm saying, world changing. Why can't I be from the lower income part of town? Why can't I get a job that pays $15 an hour? Why am I struggling working at a grocery store that barely pays me $10 an hour?
Oh, this is an interesting. And let me, because Terry doesn't know this. You and I talked about this. Terry, I'm actually taking part in a protest march tomorrow with our local leaders in our social justice community, and I'm actually going to be speaking in it. And so I have somehow in my own very, very state of whiteness found myself, in a position to speak out on some of this. And honestly, this is know my heart that I come about everything from I want to see justice on the earth, right? That I believe that I want to see sin taken out, righteousness put in. I come at it from a pastor's heart, right? I don't preach on racism as a social issue. I preach on it as a sin issue, right? That even, and I can say this, that especially with all the things that are going on, that where I thought my own house, my own church was, free and inclusive, and we were pretty good because we've gotten more racially diverse since I've been here, that things have come up since I've been here that I didn't think I was even dealing with in my own house. And all of a sudden I'm hearing words used in the house of God that I just head in my hands, right? Like don't know how to deal with some of it. So I'm coming at this with a pure heart. I'm coming at this with I want to see justice done on the earth. But I would also say I'm not convinced of all the arguments on either side, either the right or the left, when it comes to most of the issues. That a lot of times I find that the truth is more in the middle than it is on the edges. So I don't know. You save me here. Talk to me. Yeah.
Okay. So when you say that, I gotta admit, when you say that, I remember you and I having a conversation on racism a while back.
Right.
And I said racism still exists, and I knew it was going to sting a little bit, but I'm still going to say it if you don't mind. I said that racism still exists in America because of, and I use the word white, because of white people like yourself. And what I meant by that was you see that it exists, but you have the ability to completely walk away from it. You can even make the correction, but you can walk away from it. When racism rears its dirty face in my place, I can't just walk away from it because now my life is being affected. Now I'm in trouble because I could be working for a company, and I've had this happen to people. I can be working for a company and somebody don't like me because I'm black. Well, they'll go and tell the supervisor something, and the supervisor don't pay attention to me. They just take that other person's word for it, and then I'm getting written up or I'm getting walked out. Racism takes many different forms. You and I, we disagree with how to handle it. And I want to say, I'm not picking on you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll support your argument. Yeah, let me support your argument there with just what I have found, because we're doing a peace and justice march in our own community, that I've had pastors who've disagreed with me. And every time they disagree with me, I know why they disagree with me. They disagree because they don't want the march, but they'll wrap it in whatever other excuse fits that, right? But I feel, too, like the Lord has put me in the position He's put me in to help bring justice on the earth, right, to help bring His kingdom into the earth. And so, because like we talk about privilege and stuff like that, but I believe that everything I have been given, I've been given to use in His kingdom, and that's even why I'm here, because there's a lot of ways that you can't deal with racism from the outside too, right? That there are people who trust me as their pastor who will talk to me about things and where we can speak into their hearts and deal with things. I had to explain to a guy who was 72 years old in my church, and he just came up to me out of nowhere when all this started and says, well, what about when a black guy marries a white woman? And I'm like, what about it? That's not a thing. That's two people getting married. That's not a, and it just blew my mind, right? Because I would not have expected that question out of him or out of anybody. And because of what's going on, he actually decided to ask and actually bring it out. But he and I had a healthy conversation about people and about and just laid it out that it's people, man. That's not a thing, right? But I'm literally dealing with that now in church as a pastor. So,
and that's funny, but I know we were talking about a case for reparations. But let me ask you.
oh, sorry.
How does
Yeah,
a
sorry.
conversation like that go? No. I don't mind. Let's go ahead and look at that because I've got two people. I've got one person who had the question, but I've got one person on the line who has experienced it not once but twice. So how does a conversation like that go? And Jason, I need you to be ready because I want you to put in your 2 cents. All right, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
the conversation I had, and keep in mind, I didn't have time to study and prepare or anything, but my response to him was pretty much that. It's not a thing. They're just two people. There's literally no difference between a black man and a white woman, or a black woman and white man, or two white people. There's no difference because it's just an ethnic difference. It's not a race difference because we're all the same race, right?
We're all the human race thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Hey, Jason, are you on?
So,
are you there?
Yeah. So it's interesting, Pastor. So what?
Go ahead.
Oh, so Pastor Dave, I will tell you this. I've had an opportunity throughout all this situation to have some deep conversations. And in one of my men's Bible studies, we did invite a brother, a fellow Christian who came from a church, that was predominantly white. And I go to a predominantly black church. And he had almost a similar sentiment where it's like, I just didn't know this existed. And the challenge I gave to him is the same challenge I'm going to give to you. It's, how do you not know, right? How do you not know that this doesn't exist when constantly you hear about people sharing their experience of what they feel was injustice being done? And the challenge I made to that brother, I'm like, he's like, well, I see this now, and I just can't believe I didn't see it before. And I'm like, how do you not know unless you just, because you hear people yell at him all the time.
Yeah.
Right? You hear people say, this is injustice, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, are you not, when you hear that, do you just not believe that? Or do you just, how do you not interpret that and then not be surprised when one of your petitioners come to you with that same attitude? Because to me, I'm living it out. I'm like, to me, so although it's definitely appreciated where you're coming from, the sentiment was like, wow, I'm shocked and surprised. It's almost like, why would you even be shocked and surprised by that? Because,
okay. Well, one, I'm not in the South anymore, and it's a little different. We're outside of Chicago, so it's a little different here culturally. But two, in our community, we're in Boone County, so we're next door to Rockford, Illinois. It's the next county over. But our particular county is 60% Caucasian, 38% Hispanic, 2% all others. So while we have become more diverse, we've become more diverse along the Hispanic lines. And I can tell you as a pastor, I've had to deal with a lot of racism towards Hispanics to the point where I've had to take people out of positions because I could not let them be a representation of our church because of how they treated Hispanic people and things in our community. So a lot of it right now, just we'll say the past 5 years, is because I've been living in a place where that's just not the cultural divide here is not between African American and Anglo, it's between Hispanic and Anglo, and that's been more the bridge I've been trying to build. But because of current events, and this is just one of those things where Belvedere, the city I live in of 30,000 or so, has an African American population, but they usually work in Rockford or Chicago, and I know I'm not making any excuses for it because when I find injustice, I do try to apply the Lord to it, right? I do try, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, because I had this other conversation, and man, I've had so many conversations. Go ahead, yeah. Throw your thoughts in there. I'm at the end of the sentence, right? Go.
That's perfectly fine. See, the thing is, these are tough conversations to have. But
right.
I say that they're necessary conversations because Jason, you don't mind me putting it out here for you? Tell them about your background. You want to just tell it? Okay, so Jason has been. He's got 2 biracial kids. He's married to a Caucasian woman, and he's currently dating a white woman. And it's funny because I always used to kind of pick at him, and it's funny how we do it in our own community, how we pick at one another. But, I respect the fact that he, like you told your parishioner, he has the right to choose who he wants to choose. If they choose each other, then it's a done deal. my problem in our society today is even when we choose the ones we love, we still have people, and I'm going to go ahead and jump on the Christian side. We still have Christian people who get upset. And my thing is, and the reason I was talking about the case for reparations is this very reason, is discrimination is alive and well. It's real. And when I talked about the theft of intellectual property, why is it that, okay, Thomas Edison, he gets the credit for the light bulb and electricity and a whole bunch of things. But there was another man who was right there with him who perfected the light bulb, who actually got the light bulb to light up. That flint, that little flint that runs through the bulb, he's the one who created that, but he gets the filament. There we go. I said flint, but filament.
Are you talking about Tesla? Nikola Tesla, or are you talking about?
No, I need you to look that up. One of y'all just look it up for me real quick, because I forget his name.
I know Nikola Tesla was in competition with him, but Edison always patented things first and drove him into poverty. Yeah.
And he just never got out of it, right? But with a name like Nikola.
And he was a Russian immigrant, right? And that's where part of this too, because like when I'm looking like with the police, how much of this is race driven and how much of this is class driven? Right? Like when I said world-changing money, I don't mean world-changing money for us. I mean, and that kind of goes back to a comedy routine that, go ahead. Okay, I mean like world-controlling money. How about that?
That's fine, because I can bring up names like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. Right. And I can bring up a whole bunch of Russians, but we won't talk about them. But let's talk about the police. I mean, you brought it up.
Well, before we go there, I definitely I don't want us to lose track, because I think we hit a really good vein. You talked about like my dating life and my social life, and I will tell you it's really interesting as I date even outside, my culture, to have a conversation. It's the same thing. They're like, I didn't know this existed, and to me, I'm like, how do you not know? And I think, what we're coming across is that there's a perspective of our country that we're dealing with, and there's two varying different perspectives. And just like you ran into, Pastor David, you probably never saw that perspective until you had to come face to face with it. Instead of, we talk about this all the time. People don't care until it comes into their world. And I think the reality of solving this issue is to have conversations, and it has to go both ways, because I can't be mad at you, Pastor David, because you're like, I just didn't know. Well, it's not your fault you didn't know, And I have to understand your perspective on life, what you grew up with, what you were exposed to, how you interpret all the things that came into your world. And then I have to share that with you, and we have to find that understanding together to say, okay, well, were we on the same page with the perspective of what we saw in this country? No. But how do we get on that same page? And I think when you want to talk about healing, across these cultural divides, across these race divides, that's what has to happen, And now, when you want to talk about reparations, part of me feels I have a hard time with it, because I think that interferes with the conversation that needs to happen, right? The conversation is saying, let me see your perspective on this situation, and let me hear and allow you to hear mine.
Okay. So you're saying reparations interferes with the conversation?
I think it's one of those things. Anytime you force someone to give up money that they don't feel like they should give up for, they're gonna be upset. That's just a human nature. Like, I get a speeding ticket. The other person was speeding. He didn't have to pay this money. I'm gonna be a little upset that I have to pay the money, right? Anytime I'm gonna lose something that's important to me for a reason that I don't feel is valid, it's going to have an impact on me, and we have to recognize that. So I'm not against reparations. I'm just saying it should be something that we all come to a consensus on and say, okay, yeah, this is something that's valid. In order to come to that consensus, we have to get on the same page. And we can't say, like, well, this stuff doesn't exist, or I didn't know this stuff was still going on, when constantly we're hearing that voice that's saying, hey, yeah, I walk in a grocery store, I get followed. I go get in the elevator with somebody, they get nervous and they scoot away from me. I walk into the library, they move to the other side of the hallway.
Yeah, but how does that make you feel in this world today?
And I think that's the biggest part. It hurts, and a lot of people, you see the anger and the frustration that comes from it, And I was actually talking to my girlfriend about this. We were talking about the Trayvon Martin case, and I told her I can understand where Trayvon was coming from. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm walking down the street, and I'm being judged and mistreated for no other reason because you think something that doesn't exist. And unfortunately, I think he was feeling hurt, but we all feel that hurt. You know, I mean, as a black man in America, I tell you, there's not one black person in America that's not dealing with some type of hurt and pain and trauma. And it just, when you deal with that stuff, it just constantly reinforces it. And that's really what it does. It just hurts so bad. And how you respond to it is, you get angry, then you get defeated, then you just feel hopeless, then you just get angry again. It's just, it's trauma, to for lack of any other word.
Trauma. So this is what I'm hearing. And by the way, we got the answer to my question. I apologize that I remembered off the top of my head, but the guy who invented the filament for the light bulb was Lewis Latimer back in 1881. Thank you for that, Mr. Terry. And but look at his family. We talking about reparations. So Jason, just to touch on what you were talking about, we talking about reparations. Was his family relegated to being poor up until 2020? Did he get money off of that? I can tell you he didn't get paid off of that. But I can also tell you he was a good enough inventor that he did make a living another way. But when we talk about reparations, how can you give us back what you stole from us? How can you give us back what you took from us? How can you give us back that thing that you wouldn't give us an opportunity to have in the beginning? And so I will tell you guys this. It's not so much that I'm a big proponent of reparations. I am, however, just like you, Jason, I'm a big proponent of having the discussion. Because one thing I've learned, when you start taking monetary things from people, they start to listen. They start to engage. They start to talk. And I think in our country right now, that's what we need. That's what's happening with the police departments. I do want to kind of roll over into that. That's what's happening with the police departments. Jason, you mentioned how you feel when you're walking into a library and you see a group of ladies and they all move to one side of the hallway clutching their bags as if, now I know you, Jason. I know what you look like. Really, you're not a real threatening looking guy to me, right? You're tall, but you just don't look like you're threatening. And I understand if you come in with certain types of hair and looking all grungy. I get it. Whether you're black or white, I'm gonna put my hand on my wallet, right? But sometimes, like in our climate today, we can be in corporate America, man. I mean, I'm being honest. You can be in corporate America and be accosted by the police for no reason. My thing is, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, my thing is, I seen two guys on TV, on the news. One guy stole something from Walmart. The police were called. He ran all over the parking lot, tried to carjack some people's cars, tried to cut a police, tried to fight the police, ran back in Walmart. Yeah, the police chased him down inside of Walmart, beat the crap out of him, dragged him out in handcuffs, threw him in the car. Another guy at Walmart, he's accused of stealing something. He's in his car, and all of a sudden, pow, he gets shot dead. Now, which one of those guys you think was black and which one you think was white? See, that's the problem I got when I started talking about policing in our country. When I started talking about reparations in the country as well, how many people are going to have to be wrongfully killed before we change the policies? Because, David, you and I talked about this earlier. I believe the problem with the police department is not necessarily all the bad cops, because I'm sure there's only a handful in each department. I don't believe the biggest problem in the police department is the good cops who won't speak about the bad cops, which make them bad cops. I believe the problem in the police department is the policies. And we change the policy, we change the environment, we change the attitude, we change the entire police department. And so I have a problem with things like that, like what's going on here in Louisville. You know, this young lady was basically murdered by a cop. And when you look further into the story, they'll finally tell you that this cop fired through a glass patio door in which he had no idea who was on the other side. They said he couldn't have seen it. I think the curtain was drawn or something. They said there's no way he could have seen who he was firing at. He just lit the place up. Why? And so I think it's the police policies, and which brings me to my next point about reparations. The policies in our country, and we don't have to live in denial. Now, some of us may not know this, but the policies in this country make it hard for the black man or any other quote-unquote minority in this country to make it. They make it very difficult. The hiring practices in corporate America, I worked in corporate America. I thank God for it. I wasn't an executive, but I was treated like one. I got an opportunity to live that life for a little while. It was wonderful. It was totally different than working at a gas station because I worked at them before too. It was just different in the hiring policies and the practices that we use, and the fact that there's little to no accountability about what we do to each other in our business establishments. And here in Kentucky, it's what's the word I'm looking for, Terry? The work state of Kentucky. What's that word I'm looking for?
Oh,
right to work.
Will.
At will. It's an at-will state. So what happens? You can get fired for anything here in Kentucky. Yeah, for anything.
No reason.
If you can't prove the bias, then you're out of work. You're out. So my thing is, Jason, you're a big fan of talking. How can we, just average, everyday citizens like us, how can we start to make enough noise so we can get these conversations started so change can happen? What do we need to do in America? Man, y'all be
and that's
quiet.
the hard part. I mean, that's really the hard part. It's actually really, you can't force anybody into a conversation because you're not really then having a conversation. You know, people have to come at it willingly. People have to come at it with an open heart. And unfortunately, I don't know. And that's the thing about it. You know, we look at what's going on in our current circumstance, in our current climate, and although there's been so much destruction and just bad things, the fact that it's gotten this bad has forced people to have conversations. I'll tell you, I'll go on the record with this. I could care less what you think about Donald Trump as a president. I think what he has done, in the sense that he made things okay, which forced people now to deal with it, which forces more conversations. You know, I would tell you like
he made what things
probably
okay?
Like the out and out, the fact that I can share these thoughts, these racist thoughts, these supremacist thoughts, and it's a climate where people feel like, hey, I can say whatever the heck I want. And now, you know, it was funny. I was watching the Saturday Night Live, and when President Trump got voted in, and Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock was like, you know, they were doing a skit, and they're like, oh my God, America's racist. And they looked at each other like, oh really? Like, yeah, we know that. And the fact that this stuff is out there now is forcing conversation. You know, like I told you before, I've had 2 conversations that I would tell you, if you told me 10 years ago, I would say I would never have these conversations with people of other cultures. You know, talking about race and race relations and understanding, like, with a true heart to say, you know, like you're all, Pastor David, like I'm trying to understand where is this coming from? What is this? Mm-hmm. You know, and unfortunately, I don't like the climate and the climate and circumstances that we're in, but the result that's coming from it, I mean, I can't say I don't like the results, but unfortunately, to get to these results, we had to go through this, and that's the part that hurts me more than anything. So although I don't want this to continue, I'm more committed that if this has to continue for conversation to happen, then let it keep going. You know, I would love for people to say, hey, you know what, we've seen enough, now let's come to the table and sit down and talk. But what history has always told us is when this stuff settles down, then everybody's going to go back in their corners, you know. But so if you ask me, if this has to continue so the conversation so real conversation can happen, then I can't be against it. I'm not for it, but if this has been, so far in my lifetime, this has been the only catalyst for conversations to happen. So if someone's got another way, hey, I'm all for it. But until then, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay. See, Terry or David, you want to add into that? I know we're going to be drawing to a close here in just a couple of minutes. Anyone want to add into that?
Terry, you go first, man.
No, I don't have anything to say on that.
All right.
Well, yeah. Well, and Sedric knows my opinion on that's going to be a little bit different. One, Gosh, as a pastor, I don't go into politics because my feeling has always been I am not going to keep anyone out of God's kingdom because of who I voted for. I can tell you that I did not vote for Trump and I did not vote for Obama, that I voted independent in the last, 8 elections because I didn't, it's just where I was at when I was looking at the poll, right? And I agree with we have to have these things so that we can have the conversation. I believe that there's a wound that's been covered, and instead of it being cleaned out and healed, that's been left to fester. And then every now and then, it's like you've got a wound and you touch something the wrong way, and all of a sudden you remember how much it hurts, but then it goes away for a little bit, and then you just forget it until the next time you touch it. And this has been kind of like that. And I feel that this is a good time to open the wound, to lance it, to clean it out, to have the good conversations, and to begin to heal. Let me say from my point of view and in my world that most of the people I know, I would say 90% of the people I know on a daily basis, that I interact with every week, don't want to be racist. They don't want to judge people because of the color of their skin, nor do they want to inflict injustice upon them because of that. And I understand that systemic racism is different than that. As a pastor, I always take it on a personal level and say, if this person is struggling with a particular sin, how do I help them overcome that? Be it racism, be it, any other sin, pride, anger, jealousy, envy, like any other sin, racism is sin, right? Anytime you take somebody and you, right. And any kind of oppression and stuff like that. So I take that more on a personal level. When we start taking things to the state level, I think all laws have a unintended consequence. I don't have a lot of faith that politics are going to solve anything. As a pastor, the reason I believe in the Word of God is because I don't believe anything else is going to change men's heart and bring them back to a place of unity with one another outside of the Word of God. And that's kind of where I end up at, right?
Okay, you know what? I don't have a problem with that, but I can tell you as a minister, I have a little bit different philosophy, and maybe you guys can help me with that, but I'm not so heavenly bound that I'm no earthly good, meaning I want to be in the kingdom of God. I do, but I'm here on earth, and I got to live here. And honestly, for all practical purposes, I live a really good life, but it's not fair. For real, y'all flexing? I just don't want it to be that I, Sedric, have lived a good life and forgot about my brother who has not, because I think it's my duty to give. Robin Hood robbed from the rich and he gave to the poor, but I think God puts us here so that we can help one another out. What greater love a man have that he would give his life for his brother. But sometimes it's not just giving your physical life. Sometimes it's giving up your creature comforts. Sometimes it's giving up the things that make you feel good sometimes. Sometimes it means that God wants us to live uncomfortable so that we can carry out his message. And so that's where I live. And that's the stance that I try to take on every single thing that I get involved in. I don't put me first. I put the people first. And I think that in our country, and I'm going to be honest, David, Terry, Jason, we all believe in God. Well, if we want our government to be a little bit more like God, we need to put people like God in office, right? Now, that's kind of a oxymoron to some people, but not to me. I believe it's true, and I believe we have to put forth the effort. And now, again, I was talking about the case for reparations. I believe that there is a case for reparations. The problem is that we don't know what reparations look like. We don't know what they want. Do you want college tuition? Do you want them to do what they did for the Native Americans who were here first and foremost, right? Do you want discounts? Do you want to live on your own reservation? We don't know what reparations look like, but I can tell you what reparations look like to me. I'm right along with Jason. He said this for me, and I want people to pay attention. I think reparations is a term that we put out there, or a solution that we put out there so that we can get people talking. What people who do we want talking? We want the people that we put in charge talking. We want them to listen to us. See, we don't put you in Congress or in the Senate so you can go up there and just do willy-nilly, do what you want. I'm sorry, Mitch McConnell, my bad. Did I call you out? But we put you up there to do the bidding for the people. And if you don't do the bidding for the people, then you know what, the next term you got to go. And I think that that's what why a lot of people are making a big fuss about reparations, because they want to get everybody talking. They want to create that awareness, and then we want to create a solution. Nobody knows what that solution looks like. All we have is proposals on the table, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. If all we do for reparations is to end systemic racism towards all people, then I believe that we've done our job. I believe that we have hung in there. I believe that all of us have done our part. Again, I read in James, it talked about, it said, the brother in humble circumstances ought to take pride in his high position, but the one who is rich should take pride in his low position. I'm telling y'all, we need to really, truly think about that. Really think about that. Now, we're about to close out. I want to thank the three of you guys for coming on. I hope you guys had a good time tonight, as I did. And with that being said, God, we love you. We honor you. Respect you. In Jesus' name, I want to pray for each and every one of y'all, okay, that God just blesses you and continually. So y'all know what to do right now. Find something you love. I want you to chase it. I want you to embrace it, and that is your relentless pursuit. This is Minister Sedric, and I want y'all to have a wonderful weekend. God bless you. And Sister Kim, you can take us out with a little song. I would appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all very much for being on with me tonight.
Have a good one.
Good night.